the meaning of transcendence. Now, that's exactly what I'm talking about right here when I say you're gonna start going through the same suffering, but here's what you're gonna do: you are going to transcend the suffering. You're going to transcend the experience of the suffering, the ego experience of the suffering. Because this is what makes suffering so hard, is because we tie it to our ego. All right, I know this is getting a little deeper with the ego because that's a huge topic, but it's important. It brings me, you hear people, I'm going to stop holding my coffee. I won't drink it, obviously. Um, People always talk about the ego death, and even though it is a legitimate name to a legitimate experience, unfortunately, it's been so misused that I hate using that terminology. People think we have to destroy our ego, and it is not. Now, okay, you'll have to forgive me. I always use the stories of the Bible to talk about the ego because, as far as I'm concerned, the meaning of the story of the fallen angel that becomes, Satan, whatever, angel of light, blah, blah, blah. That's our ego. Boom. Um, And so our goal is to bring back the ego at its righteous place. It's not to kill it, to annihilate, yeah, I can't say that word to save my life. It's not to destroy it, right? Our goal is to make the ego go back to being what it used to be, what it should have been all along. Now, there's a reason our ego it took that much room. We had to give it that much room. We tend to be lazy. We automate things. Our brain wants to automate everything. So it decided that our best aspect was our ego because it was the thing that was keeping us safe from, the brontosaurus and the saber tooths and the whatever else. I mean, I know we weren't at the same time as brontosaurus, but um, you know, and so our ego became super important. And I think what happened is we centralized everything around it. And it kept us safe and it kept us good for a long time. And then we went to, because of it, though, when we started civilizing, we went to wars and we did stupid things because they're all ego based things. Now, for some reason, people thousands of years ago knew about this and they spoke about it. They just didn't call it the ego, right? And so they have a beautiful story that describes exactly what happened. Today, we don't need our ego the way we did, right? But we're still being led by it. And so if you look at our behavior right now, it corresponds to everything that was described under that ego, under the devil, if you will, and all the defects of character, if you will, that come with the ego are what are mentioned there. And anyways, so the point here that I'm trying to make, going really far, is that the goal is to transcend the ego. So the goal is to be able to step out of the ego personality, and then be able to appreciate it from the outside. Now, the one tool that will help the most, I said I would try to make this practical tonight. So here's what. Um, Sadly, it's the one tool I always say, but meditation is the one tool that's going to make this happen for you, right? If you sit in meditation, and I always tell people, don't make it complicated. Start with a breathing meditation. It's as far as I'm concerned, it's the best way to start. You learn to breathe, counting 1, 2, 3, 4 as you breathe in. Hold it 1, 2, 3, 4, and then release 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, and then hold the exhalation. Hold empty 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I always like kind of make the shape of a square, but now that will actually do a couple of things. It'll one teach you how to breathe better because we all breathe like all day, and that is super unhealthy. So if you learn to just nothing else than 10 minutes a day go Just take any kind of rhythm and breathe rhythmically. Trust me, just that alone will improve your life, right? Um, but if you do it in a rhythmic way and you count and you get your mind involved. Now you're not trying when you meditate, you're not trying to empty the mind. That'll come sort of by itself, if you will. At first, what you want to do is let the thoughts go. And as they come in, right? Like as you're going like, oh my God, did I forget to lock the door? You kind of go, it's okay, we'll check after meditation. Okay. And then you let it go. And then it'll, oh crap, did I buy soap? Did I forget? Oh my God, what happened? Oh crap, I'm having a thought again. Okay, well, wait up. Okay, thanks for coming. Bye bye. And then you let go of the thought. But as you do that, sorry, I ignored you guys. I closed my eyes and, went meditating here for a second. But here's what happens. As you do this, your thoughts kind of, you let them go and you let them go, and they get used to it and you get used to it, and it kind of creates this new balance inside of you. And you start being able to hear your thoughts better on an everyday basis as well. And that's important because now you start being aware that, more than likely, like most of us, unless you grew up in a wonderful family, you probably, tell yourself all kinds of garbage. Like anytime you do something wrong, you might be like, oh, for God's sake, you're so stupid, right? Okay, here you are calling yourself stupid. No, you don't want to do that, right? So you can start seeing your thoughts. You start being more aware of your emotions. You start being more aware of yourself as a general rule. But what ends up happening when all of a sudden those thoughts go quiet and those emotions go quiet? You start hearing this inner voice. You start noticing this part of yourself that you were never aware of before. And that's your inner self. That's the self that is actually above all those things, above the emotions, above. And now you've done your first act of transcendence and you have transcended your thoughts and your emotions. And when you reach that point, now you've opened up a whole lot of possibilities. So I always tell people, first step, learn to meditate, try, do anything. You know what? Like, to be honest with you guys, it took me years before I could say that I had managed to meditate daily for 6 months in a row. Because for me, that had been, somebody had said, that's what you want to attain. I said, you know what? Until I've attained that, I will not rest. And, I would meditate 3 days and then I would forget for a month. I would meditate a week and then forget for 2 weeks. And then it was ridiculous. I mean, but look, I knew that if I learned to do this, somehow I knew there's a lot of things, we'll talk about that someday, but there's a lot of things I knew from a very intuitive level when I was younger. And that led me through my life. But anyways, so I knew to kind of keep going. But when I did, and then later on, I managed to meditate for something like, I think it was a year and a half. I was living in a small bachelor or whatever, and it was just, the environment was good. I was eating right. I was living right. Everything was, things kind of fell into place for that moment in time. And that really was it, the fact that I reached that level brought a lot. And then in my case, I also did a lot of energy work, protection rituals, and a lot of different other elements that brought about other aspects. And then one day we'll talk about it, but I also did a lot of work with the Kabbalah and the Tree of Life and the mystical Kabbalah. So one model of the Tree of Life, I used the model used by the Golden Dawn. Uh, Anyways, so all of that sort of brought me here. But yes, the meaning, like that transcendence, that is what we do each step of the way. We don't, it's like we don't gain anything new ever. We just transcend something old, and it allows us to view something more about us. And eventually, what happens, right? Once you see over your thoughts and over your emotions, once you've reached that inner self starts being able to listen a little easier to your intuition. Now, we'll talk about that in a moment by the end of the show. So stay put, guys. Don't go anywhere.